my strength has not come from within, which is what I always thought it would come from. And what I've really learned over the last 10 years is how to lean on other people that are in my life, other people. You mentioned your wife as a support system.
I'm Minesh Baxi here, and I have a very good friend, somebody I look up to, somebody who has not only been successful himself, but he has helped his team members as well as a lot of students around the country be successful in their businesses. So please welcome Ben Wilson.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Finally, it's nice to spend a little time with you, to talk to you, and then hopefully be able to share to even more people what's going on in our lives nowadays.
Exactly. And I think most people think that the challenges they face, they are the only ones facing the challenge. Nothing could be further from the truth. You and I know that we all have our own challenges. And somehow, sometimes, either because we were open to it, we found something, followed a process, and we ended up at least overcoming some of the challenges. So, Ben, just to get started, tell me a little bit about you and your businesses.
Yeah. So, a little bit about me. I'll be this August celebrating 21 years of marriage. So somehow, some way, I've been able to hold on to my wife for 21 years. There's been many a time she's had every reason in the world to probably stop the good fight, but I think commitment really says a lot about our relationship. And as time goes on, we continue to get more and more adjusted to what that looks like, but there's certainly been a lot of highs and lows through that period of time. So celebrating 21 years is a big feat for me, and I'm very proud of that. I have two children, 19 and 16, and I have a son who's in college, and then my daughter is going to be a rising junior in high school. Super proud of both of them. They give me a run for my money each and every day. I certainly have to keep my focus on them, because in this day and age with social media and all the craziness that's going on, it's a tough world that we live in, and they're exposed to so much at such a young age that it's a little scary. So, but I am proud of them, and we have a lot of fun for sure. And now they've started both in the dating game, and so I'm dealing with getting to know their boyfriends and their girlfriends, and that's certainly its own adjustment along the way, right? So we had a lot of fun there. I have three core companies, and when I say core, like fundamental companies, I'm a part of other stuff, but three core companies. The mainstay and the cornerstone of what I do is real estate. I have a real estate company just outside of Nashville here in Tennessee. I've had it for, this will be 17 years. And certainly love it. We, just like anything, real estate gets affected very quickly when we have highs and lows in the market. It gets affected good when life is good, and it gets affected very bad when there's change in the world and in our economy. And then I have an insurance company as well, and then I have a dry cleaning company, believe it or not, that I started with a friend of mine from church years ago, and it's exploded over the last probably 5 or 6 years. And actually I'll add a fourth one in there, because I think it's important, is that my partner here in my real estate company and I, we actually just started this year a title company. So really excited to see what happens with that and what's going on there. But needless to say, if you're a small business owner, which is what I am, these last several months have certainly been entertaining, to say the least, and certainly they've been tough. Right at the end of the day, they've been tough to be able to walk through. But that's kind of the cornerstone. That's the mainstay of my businesses, and then I guess you and I've known each other for close to 10 years now. I
Yes,
feel like
for
at
sure.
least, yeah. So
Yeah, you've known each other for a long time. I've always seen you somebody who has done a great job as a business owner, but somebody who also has time to spend with his family, be at the games for their children, and so on and so forth. I mean, that's not common for most people. My fundamental, and I think yours is pretty close to it, would be being a parent first. Because to
number
me,
one.
yeah, if I'm not focused on being a parent, which is one of the reasons I'm sure you know I homeschool my children as well. Because to me, that is the most important role I play. The rest of the roles, I think I can handle. That's the role that God gave me a lot more important.
I agree.
And I agree with my wife's situation as well. I'm older than you, so I'm married a little longer than you. But the idea behind it is my wife has been the support system for me. And that has been a big, big help for her. And again, I think home front is so critical. And most people should pay enough attention there because that's the person who's going to look after you when you are going through some tough times, right?
That's exactly.
So, exactly. So talk about a couple of challenging circumstances that you've had that people can maybe connect with and say, man, I can understand. Maybe I can have the strength that Ben has too.
Yeah. Well, I think the first thing I'd probably, before I dive into maybe specific circumstances or situations, you hit on a word there, strength. And I will tell you that I've always considered myself very strong as a person, but the last 10 years have been tough. And my strength has not come from within, which is what I always thought it would come from. I always thought I would always be the strongest person in my circumstance. And what I've really learned over the last 10 years is how to lean on other people that are in my life, other people. You mentioned your wife as a support system. I think it's super important to have people in your life and people around you that help support you during the difficult times, and then encourage you and celebrate with you during the good times, right? And so as we talk about and as we dive into tough circumstances that we're dealing with right now as a world, I mean, not just in my town, not just in my family, but as a world, I think it's been extremely important that I have had great people around me to be able to give me good advice and that I can lean into and lean on during these difficult times. Because we went through a 4-week stretch to where we had multiple tornadoes come in and destroy and devastate our town. We had illnesses within our company and within our families. We had COVID, which shut down and isolated everyone into their homes. And all of those posed as different challenges along the way, right? And then when you throw in the mix of having the responsibility of so many people in your companies, the people that work for you, the people that work with you each and every day, and their families and everything that they're going through. I don't know how you are, but as a leader, I tend to carry their burdens as much as mine. And it gets heavy, right? It gets heavy. And I'll share with you this. I took a 4-day sabbatical about 4 weeks after the COVID and everything happened. And I just went out in the middle of the woods, no technology. I had no internet. I had no access to anybody. I just had food and I had shelter, and that was it. And it was one of the best 4 days of my life to just take a pause and to quiet out all the crazy noises that chime in within our minds and with our heads. And I tell you what, that really allowed me to get through some of the tough times that we dealt with. Because I don't know about you, but like we had a tornado come through, and I mean, friends of mine lost their houses, like complete houses, lost their lives. They had family that lost their lives. I mean, it was devastating. One of my children's schools was completely devastated and destroyed. And when you think about those things happening, and then all of a sudden you're being forced and told that you can't go to work, you're being forced to stay at home every day, so you get completely thrown out of your rhythms. Emotionally, the biggest thing I had to overcome is, as someone who's rhythmic in his life, how do I change and create new norms, right? Because I really liked my old norms. I really liked the life that I had, and everything changed. And so when I think about tough stuff, and the question that you had is, what are some of the tough things that I dealt with and how did I overcome them? There were so many, and most of them were small and minuscule because I wasn't sick. I didn't personally have anybody in my family pass away. I didn't lose a house. I didn't lose shelter. My company was able to still continue to sustain itself. And so the biggest thing I overcome is, how can I help other people? And I will tell you this, in that period of time, one of the greatest things that we did, and I don't know why or what caused us to attack it, but we chose to just start reaching out to everyone that we know and ask them how we could help them. Because I don't know about you, Minesh, but in my life, I've been very blessed. I've been blessed with finances. I've been blessed with resources. I've been blessed with a great support system. And I wanted to take, instead of using them for my good, use them for other people's good. And because of that focus that we had, it allowed us to really get through, and it allowed me to overcome some of the struggles that I had along the way, and really depend on, putting my energy into other people. And I didn't always believe that way, right? I always thought that we had to put our energy into ourselves, but it just isn't the case. And that helped me out tremendously to get through all the initial shock factors of what we've dealt with over the last 2 or 3 months.
Wow, that's fantastic. That's very inspiring, because when I listen to you, it's obvious you are a caring man. You want to help a lot of people. You want to take what you have and give it to other people. And here's what I have found in life. Whatever you want, first be willing to give away. And what that simply means is, if I want love, I better be able to give love to other people.
Yeah.
Right? Contribution comes first and reward comes next.
Yeah.
And as long as you are focused on getting through these struggles by focusing on other people, I think you will find a way, which obviously you did, and most people who are successful did, is to find a way to go through it, because they were looking at themselves as leaders, not looking for other people to lead them. Not that you don't have a support system, but you are the leader, which means your vision, your strength is what people are borrowing upon to get them through the challenges, because maybe they don't have that support system. Maybe they don't have that belief in themselves. Maybe they didn't prepare themselves well enough. And then you became obviously the strength for those people.
Yeah, absolutely. As and right now, just because COVID is so in our face, and it's such a devastating circumstance that we're going through as a world, not just as the United States, but as the world. One of the greatest gifts that I was given, believe it or not, was having the tornado come through our town, because it knocked out the internet. And I know this is going to sound crazy, but it knocked out the internet, and I had to take my real estate company, and I live very close to my office, and I had to take everybody who was working at my office, and I brought them to my house, because my house had internet, but the office didn't. And my assistant asked me, because I coach on Wednesdays, I coach my staff and I coach my team. And she says, "Are you going to cancel coaching today since everybody's working from your house? And we're in kind of a little bit of a state of chaos." And I thought about it for a second, and I said, in times like this, what do people need most? And they need stability, right? They need stability. They need to know that things are still moving forward. And so what I was prepared to coach them on that day, and what I ended up coaching them on, ended up being probably one of the most monumental mindsets and plans that allowed me to be prepared for COVID when all of that took place, believe it or not, and allowed us to be prepared for what the next 2 and 3 months was going to look like as a company, and maybe even further along than that. I know where you live at in Michigan, I mean, there's still a lot of businesses shut down. You're not anywhere close to full capacity again and full throttle.
No, I think it's going to be next week that a lot of people are going to be able to open their companies. People will be able to go to a hair salon and stuff like that. So it's national news now, and I think people need stability, they need support, they need encouragement, and they're looking at people like you for that, which is the reason we are doing the podcast anyway.
That's right.
To give people that sense of, hey, you know what? There are people who are going through this. There are people who have been through this. There are people who have succeeded. Well, I can too. And I think that's a good way of just understanding that life will always, you're going through a storm, or you are going to be in a storm, or you just went through a storm, right?
That's
so
right.
You know those words as well. And I think it happens to a lot of people. So what are some of the habits? Because there are 3 things I talk about. One is the mindset. second is the skill set, and the third is the habits.
Yeah.
If you have the right mindset, right skill set, and the habits, eventually you're likely to succeed, right? So tell me a little bit about those three, any one of them that has helped you obviously get to a level of success that you have, successful companies, a great team, top producers in the area of Tennessee. You know what I'm saying?
Sure, absolutely. So when you break those three things down, the what I'm going to explain to you really draws to all three of those at all times. And it's creating extreme or a plan for extreme focus during these times of chaos, extreme focus during confusion and catastrophe, if you will. And when I look at extreme focus, I really break it down into three things. One, you have to know what your priorities are each and every day. To be extremely focused and tunnel vision, you have to know exactly what your priorities are. I think the second thing is once you understand what your priorities are, then you have to have a clear plan that you attach around your priorities. And then from a mindset position, the third piece is your passion, right? And your passion is your why at the end of the day. It's why you're focused on your priorities. It's why you have a plan. And it's what allows you to literally stay so dialed in that nothing and no one else can take you out of that. I have a couple people, we have some mutual people in our lives that are extremely focused, and they cracked the code when they figured out that they just needed to be focused on one or two things that they were really good at. But what people like us tend to do, and I know I've certainly fallen prey to it, is that because we're good at one thing, we think we can be good at everything, right? And when we try to do everything, right, we become unfocused. When we try to be all things to everyone, we become unfocused. And so understanding your priorities, when you think about our families, what are your priorities? My kids, my wife, if you have a pet or an animal, my pet, right? Putting food on the table, those are priorities, right? Well, if you don't have a plan around how you're going to raise your kids, right, then it's impossible to stay focused, because as soon as something pops into your life, it's going to divert you away from what your priorities are. And then sometimes it's too late. And that's when we hear about people losing in relationships with their kids after they go off to college or whatever, right? I never wanted that. So I was very intentional about my kids knowing that they were a number one priority for me. Same thing with my wife, right? That's why you see the majority of the United States has affected or been affected by divorce, because at some point in time, they lost focus and they never had a plan put together that was derived towards their wife being a priority, right? And then when you talk about passion, because we're in survival state, right, it's hard to think about what you're passionate about because you're just trying to get through the day. And so for me, I think about the word focus all the time. I have a very intentional plan each and every day. I mean, all the way down to where my days are themed out, right? And I had people that helped me with that along the way, right? And so I think when you break down and you create extreme focus in your life and you understand your priorities, you have a plan, and then you understand your passion, which keeps you dialed in on your priorities and your plan, then you have a chance. You have a chance of being able to overcome whatever circumstances are thrown your way.
I totally agree with you. And I think that is easy in today's culture, where we are distracted by movies, Netflix, and whatever else is going on, to say, I will watch this, I'll do this. And then we don't really evaluate what do we really want.
Yeah.
And that's, I think, the key part for all of us. Like, I was clear, I wanted to homeschool my children before we had children.
That's right.
So it's not a coincidence, right? It's that simple. But it's accidental for most people about what they achieve, and then they wonder why they're not successful. But because they didn't do the focus that you just talked about.
That's
not
right.
only did you say focus, I think the word was extreme focus.
Extreme focus, that's right.
That is dialed into a point where every day is decided in advance what that day will bring. And when you have that clarity, obviously you're going to be more productive as a person, for two reasons. One is the compounding factor. You do the same thing over and over, you're bound to get better at it. The 10,000 hours phenomenon that Malcolm Gladwell talks about, right?
Exactly right.
Yeah.
Outliers.
Yes. That process is bound to happen in your favor, number one. And number two is you will get better results. You will get better results because time will always help you multiply the results of your effort. So I think it's always a good idea. The skills multiply, the results multiply. It's always a good idea to be focused. So tell me a little bit about books or audios or any videos that you would recommend to people that you would say, yeah, those are good places to go to get some information.
Yeah, I mean, when you look at whether it is that you're overcoming adversity or that you're emotionally driving through, I'll tell you a couple of books that have really stood out to me through my life. The first and foremost that I'll share with you is a book called The Slight Edge by Jeff Olson. And in The Slight Edge, it talks about 7 key principles, right, of achieving extreme results in your life with small, very easy things to do, but they're also just as easy not to do type things, right?
Easier not to do.
That's right. And when we look at those type of things in our life, I think I love books like that drive me to a very intentional and tactical way of going about things. You mentioned plans earlier, that we have to have plans. One thing I'd love to share with your viewers, and I've shared this with many people over the last several years, is that I've always been a planner, always, my entire life. When I was in high school, I knew I was going to play college athletics. I knew I was going to do things when I went to college, and I knew I was going to be prepared after I went to college to get married and have a certain lifestyle. And I had a plan all around it all. And what I've learned now that I'm 43 is that it's important to have a plan, but it's just as important to be willing to adjust your plan along the way. Because I was telling my kids this the other day, I've yet to have one of my plans that have ever executed perfectly the way I initially drew them out. Not one, not one. We wanted to have 4 kids. We were talking about that. We had 2, right? Because my wife got diagnosed when she was 29 with MS. Our plans had to change, right? I can take you back to the first year I was married. And I had a plan. I was going to work for 5 years. I had a beautiful vehicle that was going to provide extreme financial gain for me and my family. And I was going to work for 5 years. And then I was going to do what I wanted, because what I was doing at that time, I was not passionate about. Well, I get about a year into it and my wife's ready to leave me because I work 16, 18 hours a day. She didn't ever see me. I was in bed, she was in bed whenever I got home and I was already gone before she got out of bed. Right. And so she was like, this isn't what I drew up. This isn't a part of my plan anymore. And so guess what? In order to keep my wife, I had to change my plan. And so I think it's important for people to understand that the most successful people have plans, but they also adjust their plans along the way based upon what's thrown their way, right?
And you knew what was important for you, and that was with your wife. And having said that, let me just point out quickly, my wife was diagnosed with lupus within 2 weeks of her wedding. She went through chemotherapy and all that stuff. So you know the exact story from that perspective. So good. So what are a couple of simple financial tips you can give for people that would make them say, okay, I can do these things? Again, they sound pretty robotic after a while, I'm sure, but you've been doing some of these things for a long time. So what are some financial tips you would give to people so they can be in a better place?
Yeah. So, the first thing is that when you think of finances, a lot of people, they get the hierarchy of priorities. We're going to talk about the word priorities wrong, right? In my opinion, most people, they make money and then they go pay all their bills, and then whatever's left over, they might save a little bit. And then if there's anything left over after they saved a little bit, then they might give a little bit away. Okay. And I actually think that it's the opposite. I think that when I wake up every day and I go to work to gain resources and financial gain, I think the number one thing that I do, and this is how I believe, is that I have to give to causes that I believe in first, extreme causes that I believe in first. And then I give very consistently and intentionally to my family and myself, and that's through savings, right? I pay myself. And then whatever's left over, I pay my bills with, right? And I think from a financial position, when we learn to flip that upside down, that thought process or that philosophy, I think you will find that your life becomes a whole lot more whole. But in addition, you will find that your family is in a whole lot more financially secure place. The one thing that I'll hit on finances, and it doesn't matter whether you're giving away $10 every month or $10,000 every month. My position is it has to happen every month consistently. Same thing goes with savings and paying yourself. I believe if I'm going to go work every day, I'm going to pay towards things that I believe in, but I'm also going to pay my family too. I'm not going to let everybody else get all my money first and then I get the scraps. That just psychologically and from a mindset position, that doesn't make sense to me. And so consistently, I'm going to pay myself a little bit every month. That's our savings, right? And you put a plan around it and you have intentionality and you track what it is that you pay yourself. And then you pay all your other bills and you track those things. The reason that I believe that you track them, and Minesh, I don't know what your position is or what your stance is on this, but I believe that there's no way you can ever manage anything in your life until you measure it.
Measuring before managing, right?
That's right. And when I measure things, then I know how to manage it moving forward. And so for me, you can get into strategies on certain stocks that you buy or investing in real estate. I think all of that comes well after you understand the basic fundamentals of finances, which is pay things that you believe in, pay yourself, then pay your bills.
I think that's the key part. If you pay yourself first or causes and yourself, then you won't have to worry about the rest. But I think it's easy to fall in the trap that, I want that shiny toy. So that's the problem. You want the unlimited data plan. It's like, really? So anyway, that's a separate topic altogether for that. Obviously, you have a very successful business. If somebody wants to get hold of you in your real estate or title now business, how would they get hold of you?
The easiest way is I'm still very much driven on, I like phone conversations. I like face-to-face. So certainly people can call me at any point in time. I have a very direct number. I've had the same number for now 21 years. So I haven't changed my number. I haven't had to run from too many people right along the way, but I've had the same number. So I'd love for people to call me. And on your podcast, I mean, if anyone's ever in Nashville or anywhere surrounding Nashville or has people coming there, you can reach me at 615-473-1786. That's the easiest way. Plus, you can also go to our website, our company's website, and that's teamwilsontn.com, teamwilsontn like Tennessee.com. And that has all of our contact information, access to contacting anybody in my company that way as well. And then they can always call you, Minesh. You have my direct phone number.
I do.
So you can give them my contact information
as
too.
well. Yeah, so I know we both had our parents, our fathers pass away within a short time of each other's. So
yes.
I remember that. But anyway, good luck to you. You've done a great job of obviously sharing your words of wisdom here, but also you're being an inspiring person to a lot of leaders around the country. And I know they all look up to you. I'm sure your team and other people around you in your community are grateful that you are a very positive contributing member to the community there. So thanks for taking the time. I really appreciate it, Ben. And I look forward to seeing you in person in the near future.
Sounds great, man. Thank you so much, Minesh. See you,
Thanks.
buddy.
Bye-bye.